Hello everyone and welcome to another Top 5 Records video and another one in a series in which I'm taking a closer look at the full discography of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Later this week, their 18th album will be released. It's called Wild God, and awaiting that, I'm taking a look at their full body of work. You can have a look at the other videos on my channel in the playlist where this video is also set. But for today, I'm going to be talking about their 16th album, Skeleton Tree. Now, Skeleton Tree. What's to say about Skeleton Tree? The first memory I have about this release was around the time of the death of Nick Cave's son, because during the production of this album, Nick Cave's son died. He fell off a cliff or rocks, and he passed away. Uh, horrible, horrible thing to happen. And the first thing a fellow Nick Cave fan said to me is, um, which is of course, perhaps it's not very friendly, but I'm going to share it with you nevertheless. He said, um, Nick Cave always has a dark tone in his work, but imagine the dark tone now, now that he has lost his son. And the brave thing of Nick Cave is he doesn't go out of the way of the grief. Now, most of the songs of Skeleton Tree were already recorded, and they did have the theme of grief in them. But during re recording sessions in France, um, he changed lyrics. He was improvising certain lyrics, and the entire uh, lyrical tone, the writing, is different. He felt during the production that he was not confident anymore about songs that were mostly narrative structures about characters. Um, this is more the lyrics are more a stream of consciousness. The record in its entirety is more avant-garde. You hear drum computers. There is a repetition element in there. There is an element of atmospherical albums like the works of Brian Eno. Nevertheless, it's still very obvious that Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, or at least Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, are in control. So, what about this record about grief? And I must say that they talk about it differently. They direct the grief. Oh no, they approach the grief less direct, and they said that it's more like the wrinkles in the water afterwards, which is interesting. So close to that moment of grief. It's all incredibly fascinating. It's new. It's different, and I have a very hard time listening to it. Not because of the quality of this album. It's interesting. It's daring. It's avant-garde. It's very close and intimate, but I felt reluctant to listen to it ever since the film that was made during the recording of this album got released. That is One More Time with Feeling by Andrew Dominik. Now, Andrew Dominik is an incredible director. Andrew Dominik and Nick Cave worked together before on the assassination of Jesse James by the coward of Robert Ford, um, to which Nick Cave and Warren Ellis did a beautiful soundtrack. Um, Later on, they worked together on a film 2 years ago, Blonde, about Marilyn Monroe. That film was less successful, but the assassination of Jesse James is one of my favorite films from the last decades. It's a masterpiece, and the soundtrack is mesmerizing. And Andrew Dominik is not somebody you just call to make a making of. Now, One More Time with Feeling is a skillfully beautiful documentary, which was used, or at least that's what they say, so they could give something to the audience, so he could talk about the themes and what he's going through and what this record is all about without having to talk to the press. I think it's a brilliant move because, well, first of all, you get a brilliant documentary. Seriously, this is the second brilliant Nick Cave documentary. 20,000 Days on Earth was made 2 years before that. Also, really brilliant, influential for me as a filmmaker. And One More Time of Feeling is also a masterpiece. But the weight of the grief is so sensible. You can sense it so much on a documentary that I thought, oh, but the record will be very heavy. And that's what I experienced when I put it on then, and what I again experienced when I put it on now. It's a work of art, obviously. But Nick Cave is not going to let the audience walk away from its subject matter, nor is he walking away from it himself. And that makes it tough. That makes it tough for me to enjoy. There's also this element of how do you relate to this grief? And I find it hard. Not having lost a son myself, I think that losing your children is a different, well, level might not be the right word, but um, you do not assume you will see the passing of your own child. Um, I mean, grief is hard enough as it is when you're losing a loved one, but sometimes people can find comfort. I'm not necessarily saying that I do or I would, but sometimes people can find comfort in the idea that it's part of life. Well, losing a child should not be part of life. That weight is in everything, and I find it hard to relate to that. Also, I do not want to relate to it. I find it so heartbreaking that I also find it tough to open my heart for it. There is, however, one moment when it does hit me and the spine is chilling. And that's on side B with the song Distant Sky, which has the most incredible female vocals ever. There are also beautiful live versions of that. That was the first time I fell in love, but the album version is brilliant as well. And that's when I sense the power of Skeleton Tree. But overall, I find this and the album to come, and I have even a different story with Ghosteen. Tough records. I don't put them on for my pleasure, and I don't put them on to help me with my own problems. They are those records were not made for me, but I do acknowledge that something is going on here. It's just really tough. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.